So we'd like to welcome everybody to the February 23rd, 2023 City Council meeting. Before the mayor calls the meeting to order, we'd like to go over the hybrid meeting format. City Council meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format. This format allows the public to view and participate in the meeting through Zoom, in addition to attending virtually. As a result, in order to conduct the meeting in an orderly manner, certain protocols are asked to be followed. The host will keep all participants muted until public comment is requested or any public hearing is opened. The City Council will first solicit comment from those attending the meeting in person. At the appropriate time, the mayor or host will specifically solicit comment from Zoom participants. Comment will be solicited from those participating via their PC or phone application. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand virtually. The mayor or host will individually recognize those wishing to speak and will invite you to speak. And you will be unmuted by the host at that time. Your microphone will be remuted after you have spoken. If you're not aware how to raise your hand virtually, if you go to the toolbar at the bottom of your application, either on your phone or PC or Mac, go to the reaction button. When you click it, it'll bring up another menu. And then you simply select the raise hand, and you simply do the same thing again to lower your hand afterwards.
Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out my Zoom stuff. All right. We'll call the meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda?
I have provided for the council a revised agenda, removing the accepting the donation from the fire relief, both the ceremonial portion and the action under consent agenda. Since we do not have 4 council members here tonight, donations require supermajority. So that item has been moved to the March 9th meeting. The relief president has been advised, and they'll be coming to that meeting instead.
Understood.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion by Josh.
Second.
Second by Amanda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll go into public comment. Anyone here for public comment? All right, we'll move on from public comment. Consent agenda. Anyone?
We need to do that online.
Yeah, I'm checking real quick. I don't see anybody raising their hand online for public comments, so.
Thanks for catching that.
Sorry about.
You don't see anything?
Mm.
Okay. Consent agenda. Anyone have anything on the consent they would like pulled or brief questions?
Could we pull item C? I just got a couple questions.
Yes. Jake will be participating remotely tonight, and he will be able to answer any questions, and if you want, give a brief presentation on the topic.
All right. So consent agenda item C is now general business item A. Any other thoughts on consent?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Josh, second by Amanda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent passes. We have some oaths of office to administer.
All right, Jake, if you're online, if you could make your face known, there's going to be a couple questions on your item, which was added to general business.
All right, so general business, item A, amending the Title 11 of the City of Elko New Market City Code. Josh, you had some concerns?
Concerns? No. Maybe questions, and I wasn't at, I don't think, this is the one where there was the joint meeting between the planning commission and the council, and maybe this was discussed there. So clarify for me, are we, with this change, are we saying that whatever buildings go in the high-density zones of the city aren't going to be allowed to use any vinyl siding whatsoever? And I guess that's my question. Would that include like apartment buildings and townhomes and stuff like that? We're saying we won't allow vinyl siding anymore?
If you guys can hear me,
Yeah.
um, perfect. Nope, townhomes would be exempt. They would still be able to use class 4 on townhomes and multifamily, I believe up to 8 units. Anything over 8 units, multifamily, it would be excluded.
And I guess, I don't know, that, aren't most apartment buildings vinyl siding? I mean, I know we've seen some concepts recently with some of the, I don't know what the right words are, the concrete or the plank stuff or whatever. But that's just, it seems like we're being very restrictive. Is that consistent with other cities not allowing any of that kind of siding for apartment buildings? That just seems very strict to
That's,
me.
yeah. It's what they're kind of moving towards. All these new multifamily projects you see, especially along 35 in Burnsville and Lakeville. Those are all higher class materials. There's no wood or vinyl. I do have a presentation I could share with you. It has kind of examples of those different projects.
I don't want to belabor it, and it was my fault that I wasn't at those, or that previous discussion. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's only one vote, so even if I vote no against it, it doesn't really matter.
Well,
per
if you feel
se.
strong against it, I mean, let's talk through it and figure out a compromise. I mean, if this all stemmed from us asking the planning commission to just relook at what they did or relook at what they had previously looked at about a year previously and, make sure that we have a good aesthetically pleasing product that is gonna work well with the neighbors when it goes in. So, I mean, I said at the time, I'm gonna support whatever the planning commission decides. I don't have any problem with what's being recommended, but that can be talked out of it if you feel.
Well, like I said, and I don't know how long the presentation is, Jake, and I don't want to waste a lot of time. And I also, I mean, I respect the planning commission's recommendations and things like that. I guess I'm just at a point where, looking to make more housing options available versus driving developers and folks out, from wanting to provide. So maybe this won't, maybe this is the new standard and, what developers and folks are looking to build nowadays, and maybe it's not an issue, but it just seems like, we may be restricting things unnecessarily, unless it, yeah. So I guess I'll defer to you guys. I mean, if you guys are completely for it, and I'm gonna waste everybody's time asking these questions,
I mean, I'm comfortable with what's being proposed and recommended. I'm not, I don't know. Amanda, do you have any feelings on it?
I don't have any feelings on it.
Okay,
Um,
so you're comfortable with it, or
I think it's fine.
would you like a presentation?
I'm also indifferent. I mean, I feel like if you want the information, it's okay to have the information.
well, without the presentation, I'm gonna vote no. But again, it doesn't matter, really, if the two of you are gonna vote for it. If there's a possibility of, looking at it and figuring something out, then fine, let's do the presentation. Yeah, I'm about opening up more options versus restricting things. Would there be options for developers to come in and say, hey, we want to waive this, or what would be the options for something like that?
I think the only mechanism where that might be permitted is under a planned unit development, possibly.
Yes. Or they could come in for variance.
But the variance has statutory criteria, which they would have, in most cases, difficulty meeting, because if it's really about cost. But with a planned unit development, there are still criteria that need to be met, but it provides a greater amount of discretion to the city for trade-offs, based on the total project.
And I guess my question is, do we have concerns with the stuff that's being developed right now that has the vinyl siding that is looking not aesthetically pleasing to all of us, that we think that this is a problem, or we're solving a problem, I guess? What problem are we solving with this, besides making it harder to develop?
So the materials that are identified generally have a longer durable lifespan, or more durable than normal vinyl siding. Vinyl siding is less expensive. If vinyl siding had the same durability and aspects, it would be used and considered to be a class 3 or above material. You do tend to see that in older buildings with vinyl siding, that the vinyl siding starts to warp, discolor, and have other issues. What cities often find is that apartment buildings are investments, and it's a very expensive to reside massive buildings like that. And so as long as it is still functional, there isn't an incentive for the investor to make that kind of reinvestment in the building. And since it's several years into the building, there's other things that are going on, and they tend to have other demands on the resources, capital investments back into the building. There is a cost difference. Whether or not it's a make or break on a project, I don't know that anybody can truly do it. Logically, yes, it's a more expensive material, so the project will be more. Is it enough to make or break a project within the community? I don't know that you can truly determine if that's the case one way or another. Jake is correct. If you look around at new multifamily projects that are going up around the metro area, they're class 3 and above materials. The ratios may differ. Different cities may have slightly different classifications and whatnot, but that is pretty typical for a larger, meaning 8 or more than 8 unit buildings.
Personally, I'd rather have higher standards, and if it really becomes a problem, and I just don't see it really becoming a problem, but if it were to, all right, let's figure out a way to make something work. But you can't go the opposite way on it, so.
With any of the new, or even the recent applications or proposals for doing multifamily housing, would any of them have had to change their plans based on this change?
We haven't had any, no. The MWF project would have met the standards that we've identified, because they gave us some more detailed. The project that was identified north of the Elko New Market Commerce Center never made it to the point where they brought in a specific plan that detailed it. But I think it did prompt the discussion because they had listed as options out there class 4 materials that they were considering. They just never made it to the point where they got to that type of firm detail related to a project. The Blackstone project that was proposed, I'm going to have to defer to Jake. I don't recall specifically on that project what it was stone below or a block below. I don't recall what the primary material was.
Jake can't unmute himself. He's trying.
Well, he should have just stayed unmuted.
Maybe the dog was barking.
There he goes.
I don't think that one really got to the point either where we knew for sure what they were gonna be doing.
I think they did. If there's more discussion, we can utilize the benefits of technology, and I'll check with Renee since she was the one who processed that application.
I'm trying to remember.
Is there any class 4 materials used on the Blackstone project?
And like I said, I don't want to belabor this, and knowing that we can always change it again if necessary, if we find out that it's turning away folks. I don't want to be creating any unnecessary barriers for diverse housing options when we have 0 anyway. So it'd be different if we had a bunch of them and we were seeing problems and we were trying to deal with current projects or landlords that weren't maintaining and, whatever, that's just where I struggle with what problem are we trying to solve if there isn't already a problem. And it feels like we're getting more restrictive than necessary, but.
I think my takeaway, like what I wanted, or I recall talking about at the meeting, was that people were not wanting to look at a building from their home. And so like one of my questions was like, what kind of landscaping requirements can we change so that there's maybe more trees or more things in between the buildings? Not necessarily material, but that could very well be just me not remembering everything that happened at that meeting.
I actually remembered it the same way as you, and my thought kind of maybe differs from where you're coming from, is that I don't know that we did enough or went far enough with what we're amending this to. That said, I don't think I'm going to talk you into wanting to go further on restriction.
No, but I mean,
So-
and
I
it's kind of to that point, and we
don't-
see it with other projects in town perhaps, it doesn't really matter what the building is, what the user is, it's gonna be hated no matter what. So whether this is a 2-story, 3-story apartment building made out of, class 2 or class 3 materials, it's still gonna be an eyesore, or, you know, not gonna be something that they like, unless we can do something with the landscaping or the layout, or, you know, requiring some of that other stuff, that it may
Yeah.
not matter anyway.
And I'm not ready to totally drop that discussion. But we can still have that discussion, we can still add more at, you know, beyond just this. I don't think vinyl siding looks good after a certain period of time. And, yeah, to some extent, you're right, people are gonna be frustrated no matter what if a big apartment or something goes up right in front of them. But I think what it is reasonable is to, you know, have an elevated level of requirements. And, you know, if need be, we can always work around it if need be. So,
I do want to point one thing out with regards to landscaping. While it can soften it, if you are looking directly ahead, the reality is when you're dealing with a building of over 2 stories, there's no landscaping in the world that will hide the building from existence. It's not like,
Just
it's
really
not
big
screening.
trees.
It adds to the aesthetics and softens the ground level of the building. It provides some barrier between one property and another, but it doesn't provide screening for the structure, and that's one thing staff often talks about with these types of projects, when dealing with the neighbors, like, well, can you screen it? Sorry, they don't make, we can't transplant ponderosa pines from up north, kind of a thing, so.
Just I'll maybe add to part of the reasoning the planning commission was looking at this is if you look at the areas where these multifamily projects are going to develop in the city, they're all along major roadways. So that it's not necessarily solving a problem, like you said, Josh, but it's kind of helping to contribute towards a couple of our goals related to just kind of aesthetic purposes.
well, I'll make a motion to, where is it? Adopt ordinance 265. So there's a motion, if there's any seconds, I don't know. Amanda?
I will second the motion.
All right, motion by myself, second by Amanda. Do we want to talk about it any further? Do you want to see a presentation?
No, I don't think there's a need for a presentation.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
All right. Motion passes. On to reports.
Under administration, looking for a council member to volunteer or be appointed to the interview panel for the commissioner positions.
Should we pick someone that's not here?
When is it? Was it in there? I can't remember.
The application deadline, I
It's just-
believe, is Friday.
Yeah.
And so we'll be scheduling the interviews for sometime in early March based on the availability of the panel.
I mean, I'm happy to do it. I haven't been on an interview panel in a while. If nobody else is dying to be on
You
it.
did also bail on one, so. Just kidding.
Wow.
The snow forced a cancellation. Anyhow.
Just kidding.
Oh,
That's my sidebar.
Josh, you want
I
to
mean,
do
unless
it?
somebody else is dying for it, I mean, I'm happy to.
I'll be a
help out.
backup if something's scheduled and
Okay.
you can't make it.
I don't have anything else unless there's any questions for me on administrative items.
Was there anything, well, how are the public works folks holding up after the snow removal?
Good. We did, I believe, 3 complete plows, during the event, as well as, additional times running priority routes. Corey sent me a text knowing that this question would come up. He said, all we have left are a few sidewalks and the bike paths. Everything looked good, no major breakdowns, which usually you have at least something, one thing. Guys spent extra time leaning back before they did their final pass, cleaned up real nice. We will still have cleanup to do tomorrow and next week. If you recall from that last round of snows, it was several days of them going out and just doing miscellaneous cleanups stuff around intersections, bike paths, everything else. And the other thing is we get later in the year, snow storage becomes an issue. So when they talk about leaning back or benching, to create snow storage, they may have to come by with a truck on the loader or on the loader with the blade raised, and they basically shove it back onto the sidewalk, and then we have one of our blowers on the sidewalk blowing it into something, just to create storage room for additional events. And if it gets, and we haven't had to do it in recent years, but if we get enough, then we also have to start looking at actually hauling out of cul-de-sacs and things like that. So I don't think we're quite there. Corey hasn't indicated where they're at, but we still have to do a little bit of work to make storage room.
They did awesome. Like, I was like driving, well, I left my house at 7 o'clock this morning, and it was like, I was expecting to have trouble, but I made it.
Other communities were not as well thought of.
Anything from police to pass along?
Brady, I
Brady's
believe, is on the call.
Oh, is he?
And I will ask him to unmute.
Good evening, council. Nope, I did not have anything for the meeting. That's why I came home to snow blow.
All right. Thanks, chief. Is Rich on? Do we have anything for engineering?
He's not. If you have something for him, he told me I could text him and he'd hop on instantly, but he did not have anything for council tonight.
Anyone got anything for Rich?
I think we should come up with something.
Then we probably gotta pay him though.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
He does not charge for council meetings.
Oh,
That was part of the deal, so.
what do we wanna bug him about?
For community development, I'm guessing Renee is not on.
Yeah, Renee did not give Jake or I anything that she specifically wanted us to review.
Same with Parks, I would assume.
Correct.
CCEC,
We meet next week, so I don't have an update or anything.
other reports, I was not at scale last meeting. Were you?
No,
No? Okay. So no scale report, unless you have anything for service delivery.
I don't. We meet on Monday.
I-35, we don't have Bryce,
We're still on for 2 weeks.
March 9th.
Yes.
Discussion by council.
The only thing I will say is that I'll be participating in interviews for the new Prague superintendent tomorrow.
It was
Because
supposed to
they
be
wor
yesterday, and they
rescheduled.
canceled it,
Oh, is
and
that
I can't
what
do
you guys were-
tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
We did a handoff.
I got a call.
All right. Anything else?
Motion to, is there any update with the DNR? Have we heard
Deadline is
anything?
Monday.
Deadline is Monday?
We have not seen anything come through. We're not sure if they'll notify us directly or not, or if we have to contact EQB. But their deadline is Monday.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Josh, second by Amanda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.